Ambassador Kang Daeho looked out the window of his transport ship at the massive space station ahead. Nexus Prime was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The station spun slowly in the darkness of space, its lights blinking like a city in the void. After 3 days of travel, he was finally here for the most important meeting in human history. "Sir, we're getting close," said Captain Park Ji-woo from the pilot's seat. The young captain had been nervous during the whole trip. This was his first time so far from Earth. "The aliens are sending us landing instructions now." Daeho nodded and straightened his formal suit. He had been chosen as Earth's first ambassador to the Galaxy Council because of his calm nature and skill with words. The man had spent 20 years working as a diplomat on Earth, solving problems between different countries. Now he faced a much bigger challenge. The Galaxy Council ruled over most of the known galaxy. 12 different alien races worked together to keep peace and order among the stars. When humans first sent radio signals into space, the Council had noticed. They watched as humanity developed faster space travel much sooner than expected. Finally, they had agreed to meet. "Remember, Captain," Daeho said as their ship moved toward the docking bay, "we're here to show them that humans can be trusted. We want to join their council and learn from them. This could mean a bright future for all of humanity." Park Ji-woo looked worried. "But sir, what if they don't like us? What if they think we're too dangerous?" Daeho smiled. "That's exactly why I'm here, to prove that we're not dangerous at all." The transport ship landed with a soft bump. Through the windows they could see alien creatures waiting for them. Some looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin. Others had 4 arms and scales. A few floated in the air without any visible legs. As Daeho stepped off the ship, he carried a metal case with gifts from Earth. Inside were recordings of human music, samples of art, and scientific data that showed humanity's peaceful intentions. He had practiced his speech many times during the journey. The aliens led him through long corridors filled with strange lights and sounds. Other alien beings stopped to stare at the first human they had ever seen. Some pointed and whispered in languages he could not understand. Finally, they reached a huge round room with a high ceiling. 12 massive chairs were arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different type of alien. In the center was a small platform where Daeho would stand to speak. The aliens took their seats. The largest was Veth Prime Kellorn, who looked like a giant gray tree with glowing eyes. Next to him sat Warcast Thurok, a creature covered in metal armor with claws instead of hands. Counselor Thys appeared to be made of light itself, shifting and changing shape as it moved. "Human," spoke Veth Prime Kellorn in a deep voice that echoed through the room. "You stand before the Galaxy Council. State your purpose." Daeho stepped forward and bowed politely. "Honored council members, I am Ambassador Kang Daeho, speaking for all of humanity. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. We hope to join your council and contribute to the peace of the galaxy." He opened his case and began showing the gifts. He played recordings of human music, from classical symphonies to gentle folk songs. He displayed holographic images of Earth's natural beauty and human art. The council members watched in silence. "We know that humans have fought wars in the past," Daeho continued. "But we have learned from our mistakes. We have united our world under one peaceful government. We no longer fight among ourselves. Instead, we explore space and seek to understand the universe." Warcast Thurok leaned forward. "Tell us about your weapons, human. What tools of death does your species possess?" Daeho felt uncomfortable but answered honestly. "We have weapons for defense, yes. But we use them only to protect ourselves. We have sworn never to start wars with other species." Suddenly, Counselor Thys began to glow brighter. Before Daeho could react, he felt something strange in his mind. It was like someone was reading his thoughts and memories. Images flashed through his head. Human wars, soldiers fighting, bombs exploding, cities burning. "Stop," Daeho said, stepping backward. "You have no right to look into my mind without permission." But Thys continued. The alien dug deeper, finding memories of humanity's darkest moments. The world wars, the nuclear bombs, the millions who had died in conflicts throughout history. It also saw something else: how quickly humans could develop new weapons when threatened, how they could fight with desperate courage when their survival was at stake. This finally stopped and spoke to the other council members in their own language. Daeho could not understand the words, but he could see the fear in their alien faces. "The human speaks of peace," Thys said, switching back to the common language. "But his mind holds memories of terrible wars. His species has the capacity for great violence. More dangerous, they learn and adapt quickly. They develop new weapons faster than any species we have seen." Veth Prime. Kelorn's eyes glowed brighter. In their short history, they have gone from simple tools to space travel in just a few thousand years. They should not have achieved faster than light travel for at least 500 more years by our calculations. "This is concerning," added another council member. "A species that advances so quickly could become a threat to the established order of the galaxy." Daeho raised his hands. "Please listen to me. Yes, we have fought wars, but we have also made peace. Yes, we develop technology quickly, but we use it to explore and learn, not to conquer. Judge us by our actions today, not by our past mistakes." The council members looked at each other and began speaking in their alien languages again. Daeho could only wait and hope. He had come here to build bridges between species, to show that humans could be trusted partners in a peaceful galaxy. After several minutes of discussion, Veth Prime Kelorn stood up. The other council members also rose from their chairs. Daeho felt his heart beating faster. "Human Ambassador Kang Daeho," the alien leader said in a cold voice. "The Galaxy Council has reached a decision. Your species represents a clear and present danger to galactic stability. Your rapid advancement and capacity for violence make you unsuitable for membership in our council." Daeho felt the words hit him like a physical blow. "But we came in peace. We want to learn, to cooperate, to help build a better galaxy." "Your intentions may be peaceful now," Warcast Thurok said, "but your species' nature makes future conflict inevitable. We cannot risk the safety of trillions of beings across the galaxy. Therefore," Veth Prime Kelorn continued, "we sentence you to immediate termination as a preventive measure. Your death will serve as a warning to your species to remain within your own solar system." Terror filled Daeho's heart. "You can't do this. I am a peaceful ambassador. This violates every rule of diplomacy in the galaxy." "The council has decided," Thys said simply. A beam of bright energy appeared above Daeho. He had time for one last thought about his wife and children on Earth, one last hope that humanity would find a better path than the one the council was forcing upon them. The energy beam struck him, and Ambassador Kang Daeho vanished into light and dust. On his ship, Captain Park Ji-woo watched in horror through the station's security feeds. The young captain's hands shook as he recorded everything. He knew that he had to get this message back to Earth no matter what happened to him. The Galaxy Council had just made the biggest mistake in their long history. They had declared war on humanity without knowing what humans were truly capable of when they had nothing left to lose. The emergency alarm rang through the halls of the Global Government Building in Geneva. President Lee Soo-jin ran down the corridor toward the crisis room, her security team struggling to keep up. She had been sleeping when the call came in from the Outer System Monitoring Station. Captain Park Ji-woo had returned with news that would change everything. Inside the crisis room, dozens of screens showed the terrible recording from Nexus Prime. Lee Soo-jin watched in silence as Ambassador Kang Daeho was killed by the alien energy beam. The man who had represented the best of humanity, who had gone to the stars carrying gifts of peace and friendship, had been murdered in cold blood. "Play it again," she said quietly. Admiral Choi Min-ho, the head of Earth's Space Forces, shook his gray head. "Ma'am, we've watched it 12 times already. The message is clear. They see us as a threat, and they're willing to kill our ambassadors to make their point." General Kim Hye-jin slammed her fist on the table. "They didn't even give him a trial. They just decided he was dangerous and killed him. This is not justice. This is murder." Dr. Yang Tai-min, Earth's leading expert on alien life, pointed at his computer screen. "I've been analyzing the aliens in the recording. Their technology is far ahead of ours. Those energy weapons, their space station, their ability to read minds. We're dealing with civilizations that are thousands of years more advanced than us. But they made one mistake, said Professor Ryo Yewan from her seat at the far end of the table. The old woman had been studying military history for 50 years. They assume that being more advanced makes them stronger. They don't understand what humans are capable of when we're fighting for survival. President Lee looked around the room at the faces of her advisors. These were the smartest and strongest people on Earth, and she could see the same emotion in all their eyes. Anger, mixed with determination. "What are our options?" she asked. Admiral Choi pulled up a holographic display of Earth's military forces. "We have 300 ships in space, but most are exploration vessels or cargo haulers. Only about 50 are designed for combat, and those were built to fight other human ships, not alien technology. Our ground forces are strong," General Kim added, "but what good are soldiers if we can't get them to the enemy?" Dr. Yang spoke up nervously. "Perhaps we should try to communicate with them again. Send another ambassador. Try to explain that we're not a threat." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the doctor as if he had grown a second head. "They killed our ambassador," President Lee said slowly. "They didn't even listen to him. They made their decision before he spoke a single word. There will be no more ambassadors." She stood up and walked to the secure terminal at the head of the table. Her finger hovered over a red button that had been installed decades ago but never used. "Ma'am," Admiral Choi said carefully. "Are you sure about this?" Lee looked at the recording of Daeho's death one more time. The good man had believed in peace and cooperation between species. He had died because aliens decided that humans were too dangerous to live. "They wanted to see what monsters we could be," she said, pressing the button. "Let's show them." Sirens began wailing across the planet. Protocol 777 was now active, the plan that Earth's leaders had secretly developed in case first contact went wrong. Deep underground, in hidden bunkers scattered across the globe, machines came to life. Commander Nam Jun Seo was eating dinner with his family on Mars Colony when his emergency communicator started screaming. He had been expecting a quiet evening, after months of patrol duty in the asteroid belt. Instead, he found himself running to his ship while reading orders that made his blood run cold. "All military personnel report for immediate duty," the message said. "Protocol 777 is active. Earth has been threatened with extinction. Prepare for total war." Within hours, the hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt were working at full capacity. These facilities had been built in secret over the past 30 years, disguised as mining operations. Now they revealed their true purpose, building the most dangerous warships humanity could design. Dr. Shin Yuri had been working late in her laboratory when the protocol activated. As Earth's top weapons engineer, she had always known this day might come. Her team had spent years developing weapons that broke every peace treaty on Earth. Nuclear bombs that could crack planets, biological weapons that could kill entire species, computer viruses that could destroy alien technology. "Finally," she said to her assistant, "time to show the galaxy what human creativity can do when we're not holding back." In the deep archives beneath the Swiss mountains, Professor Ryu Yewan accessed files that had been sealed since the end of the global unification wars. These were the records of humanity's darkest weapons and most brutal tactics, things so terrible that the United Earth government had agreed to never use them again. "Unless our species faces extinction," she read from the old documents, "then all limits are removed. Survival justifies any action." The professor began uploading the files to military computers around the world. Generals and admirals who had never heard of these weapons suddenly found themselves learning about tools of war that could destroy civilizations. Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, Captain Park Ji-woo met with intelligence officers who wanted to know everything he had seen at Nexus Prime. They asked him to describe every alien, every weapon, every weakness he might have noticed. "The station has 12 docking bays," he reported. "Their security forces carry energy weapons, but I didn't see any physical armor. The council members seemed surprised by human aggression. I don't think they're used to species that fight back." The intelligence team took notes on everything. Every detail could be important when the shooting started. Across Earth, factories that had been making consumer goods suddenly switched to military production. Car plants began building tanks. Electronics companies started making guidance systems for missiles. Clothing factories produced military uniforms. But the biggest change was in space. The asteroid belt mining stations revealed their secret purpose. Hidden inside the rocks were massive shipyards that had been building warships for decades. These vessels used the best human technology, designed specifically to fight enemies with superior alien tech. Admiral Choi stood on the bridge of the new flagship Sol's Fury and watched as hundreds of ships took formation around him. These were not the exploration vessels that had carried humans to the stars in peace. These were weapons of war, built by a species that had learned hard lessons about survival. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving messages from the outer colonies. They're asking what happened, why we've gone to war status." "Tell them," the admiral said, "that Earth has been threatened with extinction. Tell them that our ambassador was murdered while carrying gifts of peace. Tell them that we will not go quietly into the night." On the planet below, President Lee addressed the world. Every television, computer, and communication device on Earth carried her message. "My fellow humans," she began. "Today we learned that we are not alone in the universe. We also learned that the galaxy sees us as a threat to be eliminated. Our ambassador, a good man carrying messages of peace, was killed without trial or mercy." She paused, letting the words sink in. "They expect us to hide in our solar system like frightened children. They expect us to accept their judgment that we are too dangerous to exist. They are wrong on both counts." Around the world, people watched their president with growing anger and determination. Humanity has made mistakes in our past. We have fought wars and caused suffering. But we have also learned from those mistakes. We have grown, we have united, we have reached for the stars with hope in our hearts. The aliens who killed our ambassador judge us by our past, not by our potential. They have decided that we must be eliminated before we become a threat. In doing so, they have created the very threat they feared. Lee's voice became harder, more determined. "Protocol 777 is now active. This is not a protocol of conquest or aggression. This is a protocol of survival. We will defend our species with every weapon at our disposal, every tactic in our history, every drop of blood in our bodies. To the aliens who think they can destroy us, you have made a terrible mistake. You wanted to see monsters? We will show you what humans become when we have nothing left to lose. To my fellow humans, prepare for war. Not a war we wanted, but a war we will win. Because the alternative is extinction, and that is not acceptable." The transmission ended, and Earth began preparing for a conflict that would determine whether humanity had a future in the galaxy or would die fighting for the right to exist. In space, the new war fleets moved toward the outer system, ready to carry fire and death to aliens who thought they could judge humanity and find them wanting. The galaxy had no idea what was coming for them. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Kang Daeho was murdered at Nexus Prime. In that time, humanity had transformed from peaceful explorers into something much darker. Admiral Bae Jong-soo stood on the bridge of his flagship, Incheon's Revenge, and watched the enemy convoy through his ship's sensors. 3 large alien cargo ships moved slowly through space, protected by 2 warships. The vessels belonged to the Timelians, one of the Galaxy Council races. They were carrying supplies to a military base in the Outer Rim, completely unaware that death was stalking them. "All ships, report status," Admiral Bae said into his communicator. "Wolf, pack 1 ready," came the voice of Captain Oh Yoon-ji. Her ship, Silent Hunter, was invisible to alien sensors, hiding behind a small asteroid. "Wolf Pack 2 in position," reported Captain Song Min-ho from Ghost of Seoul. "Wolf Pack 3 ready to strike," said Captain Yoon Hye-jin from Phantom Blade. The human ships were nothing like the peaceful exploration vessels of the past. These were warships built specifically to fight aliens with superior technology. They used stealth systems, advanced missiles, and tactics that the galaxy had never seen before. "Remember," Admiral Bae told his captains, "we hit hard and fast. Destroy the cargo ships first, then the escorts. Leave no survivors to report back. To the Council. They need to learn that attacking human convoys has consequences. The alien ships had no idea they were being watched. The Timelians had been members of the Galaxy Council for over 2,000 years. They had never faced an enemy that used stealth and surprise attacks. Their wars were formal affairs with rules and honor. Begin the attack, Admiral Bay ordered. The human ships dropped their stealth fields and fired at the same time. Dozens of missiles streaked through space toward the alien convoy. The Timelian escorts tried to activate their energy shields, but they were too slow. The first cargo ship exploded in a ball of fire. The second ship tried to turn away but was hit by a spread of nuclear torpedoes. The third cargo ship sent out a distress signal before it too was destroyed. The Timelian warships fought back with their energy weapons, but the human ships were already moving. Captain Oyunji brought her vessel around in a tight turn that would have crushed alien crew members with the acceleration forces. Human bodies could handle much more stress than most alien species. Target their engines, she ordered her weapons. Officer. Make them helpless. The first Timelian warship lost power as its engines were destroyed. The second ship tried to ram Captain Song's vessel, but the human captain was expecting it. His ship rolled away at the last second and fired a full spread of missiles into the alien ship's hull. Within 10 minutes, all 5 alien ships were destroyed. The human vessels collected their missiles and vanished back into stealth mode, leaving only wreckage and radiation behind. Mission complete, Admiral Bay reported to Earth. No human casualties. All alien vessels destroyed. This was the 15th such attack in the past 3 months. Human wolf packs were striking across the outer rim, destroying alien convoys and bases. Each attack was carefully planned to cause maximum damage while revealing as little as possible about human capabilities. 30. Galaxy Council was starting to worry. At first, they had dismissed the attacks as desperate acts by a dying species. But the pattern was becoming clear. Humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. Councillor Voss of the Hegemony spoke to his fellow council members through their communication network. These human attacks are becoming a serious problem. They're disrupting trade routes and destroying military supplies. Impossible, replied Warcast Thurok. They use primitive kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. Our energy shield should stop such crude attacks easily. Yet our ships keep exploding, Councillor Thiss pointed out. Perhaps these humans are more dangerous than we assumed. Meanwhile, on a stolen Vethian research station in the Kepler system, Colonel Park Sung-min and his Special Forces team were proving just how dangerous humans could be. The station was supposed to be impossible to infiltrate. It was protected by energy barriers, automated defense systems, and a garrison of 50 Vethian guards. The aliens had never lost a research facility to enemy forces in their entire history. That was about to change. Remember, Colonel Park told his 12 team members, we need the research data on Council military capabilities. We also need biological samples from the different alien species. And we need to send a message. The team had approached the station in a small transport that looked like space junk. Hidden inside were some of humanity's best soldiers, armed with weapons that the aliens would find very familiar. Their own captured technology, modified by human engineers. Sergeant Kim Tae-ho placed the first charge on the station's outer hull. The explosive was made from alien materials but used human chemical compounds that the station's sensors couldn't detect. When it went off, it would create a hole big enough for the team to enter. Charges set, Kim reported. Ready to breach. The explosion tore through the station's hull like paper. Human soldiers poured through the hole before the aliens could react. The Vethians were used to fighting formal battles with energy weapons at long range. They had never faced enemy troops armed with shotguns and assault rifles at close quarters. Major Seo Dong-wook kicked down the door to the main laboratory and found 3 Vethian scientists working at their computers. They looked up in shock at the human soldier in black armor. Don't move, he said in the Vethian language, which he had learned during the past 6 months. We're not here to hurt you if you cooperate. But one of the aliens reached for an alarm button. Major Seo shot him with a taser and the alien collapsed, twitching on the floor. I said don't move, the major repeated to the other 2 scientists. While his team collected research data and biological samples, Colonel Park set up a communication device in the station's main control room. He wanted to broadcast a message to every alien communication network in the galaxy. "This is Colonel Park Sungmin of the Human Liberation Army," he said into the camera. "6 months ago you murdered our ambassador while he was carrying gifts of peace. You thought that would be the end of it. You were wrong." He gestured to his soldiers, who were systematically destroying the station's equipment. "This research station was supposed to be impregnable. Your own propaganda said it was impossible for primitive humans to infiltrate it. Yet here we are." Colonel Park held up a data crystal containing stolen alien research. "We now have detailed information about your military capabilities, your weapon systems, and your defensive strategies. We also have biological samples that will help us develop very specific weapons." He looked directly into the camera. "You wanted to judge our species based on our capacity for violence. Let me show you what human violence really looks like." The broadcast cut to recordings from the various convoy attacks. Alien ships exploding, human vessels appearing from nowhere like ghosts. The cold efficiency of human military tactics. "This is just the beginning," Colonel Park continued. "Every day we grow stronger while you grow weaker. Every attack teaches us more about your weaknesses. Every victory brings us closer to your homeworlds." The message ended with Colonel Park setting off charges that destroyed the research station. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away, a bright flash of light that announced to the galaxy that humans were no longer hiding. Back on Earth, Dr. Han Minji was working in a laboratory that would have horrified the old peacetime government. She was developing biological weapons specifically designed to kill alien species. Using genetic samples collected from raids like Colonel Park's, she was creating viruses and bacteria that would be harmless to humans but deadly to aliens. "The Thymelians have a weakness in their respiratory system," she explained to her team. "A simple modification to the common cold virus should be enough to kill them within hours." Her assistant, Dr. Young Minsu, looked uncomfortable. "Are we sure this is necessary? These weapons could kill millions." Dr. Han looked at him with cold eyes. "They killed our ambassador and threatened to wipe out our entire species. Mercy is a luxury we can no longer afford." Meanwhile, Engineer Lim Jae-hoon was working on more conventional weapons. His team had been studying captured alien technology and finding ways to turn it against its creators. "Their energy shields work by deflecting high-energy attacks," he explained to the weapons development team. "But they're not designed to stop multiple low-energy impacts. If we hit them with enough bullets, the shields will overload." "What about their armor?" asked his deputy engineer Ko Sun-woo. "It's designed to stop energy weapons," Lim replied with a smile, "but it's weak against physical impacts. A simple sledgehammer could crack their battle suits." The human war machine was learning and adapting with frightening speed. Every captured alien device was studied, copied, and improved. Every battle taught new lessons about alien weaknesses. The Galaxy Council was beginning to realize that they had awakened something terrible. The species they had dismissed as primitive was proving to be incredibly dangerous. But their pride would not let them admit their mistake. Warcast Thurok called for a massive military response. "We must crush these humans before they become a real threat. Send the Fifth Fleet to destroy their homeworld." 2 years had passed since the first human attacks on alien convoys. What had started as small raids had grown into a full galactic war. Fleet Admiral Yoon Hyun Woo stood on the command bridge of Earth's Fury, the largest warship humanity had ever built. Around him, 300 human vessels prepared for the biggest battle in their species' history. The target was the Vethian stronghold at Rigel 7, one of the most heavily defended worlds in Galaxy Council space. If the humans could take it, they would control 5 major trade routes and cut off supplies to dozens of alien military bases. "All ships report ready," said Captain Lee Junho, the fleet's communications officer. "Enemy forces?" Admiral Yoon asked. 200 ships in orbit," reported the intelligence officer. "Mostly Vethian and hegemony vessels with some Thymelian reinforcements. They've had 2 years to prepare their defenses." Admiral Yoon smiled coldly. The aliens still didn't understand what they were fighting. They prepared for traditional space, battles with energy weapons and shields. They had no idea that humans had spent 2 years developing entirely new ways of war. "Launch the Reaper swarms," he ordered. From the human ships, thousands of small metal objects shot toward the alien fleet. They looked like simple missiles, but they were much more dangerous. These were Dr. An Seok-jin's greatest creation, self-replicating war machines that could turn alien technology into more weapons for humanity. The first Reaper drone reached a Vethian cruiser and attached itself to the hull. Immediately, it began cutting through the alien metal and converting it into raw materials. Within minutes, the single drone had become 5 drones. Those 5 became 25. The Vethian ship was being eaten alive from the outside. "Sir," the alien captain reported to his commander, "we're being attacked by some kind of mechanical parasites. They're spreading across our hull and we can't stop them." Similar reports came from ships across the alien fleet. The Reapers were designed to target alien technology specifically, ignoring human ships completely. They turned enemy vessels into raw materials for more weapons, growing stronger with every ship they destroyed. But the space battle was only part of humanity's war effort. On the surface of planets across 12 star systems, Grand Marshal Kim Sang-ho led the ground war against alien civilians and military forces. His armies didn't fight like traditional soldiers. Human troops used converted colony ships as mobile bases, moving from planet to planet faster than aliens could respond. They struck hard and fast, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Colonel Moon Ye-jin had earned the nickname the Ghost of Vega for her guerrilla campaigns in the Vega system. Her troops would appear from nowhere, destroy alien installations, and disappear back into the wilderness. The aliens never knew where the next attack would come from. "We hit their supply depot last night," she reported to Grand Marshal Kim. "Destroyed 3 months' worth of food and medical supplies for their garrison. The aliens are starting to abandon the outer settlements." "Good," the Grand Marshal replied. "Fear is our greatest weapon. Make them afraid to leave their fortified positions." The human strategy was simple but effective. Make the aliens afraid to fight. Every battle showed them that humans would use any tactic, any weapon, any sacrifice to win. The civilized galaxy had never faced an enemy that fought total war. Earth General No Jung-won ran the psychological warfare campaign. Her teams broadcast messages across alien communication networks, showing the destruction of Galaxy Council fleets and the capture of their worlds. "People of the galaxy," her latest broadcast began, "your council leaders told you that humans were primitive and weak. They said we could be easily defeated. Look at your burning worlds and tell me if we seem weak." The broadcasts included footage from captured alien security cameras. Galaxy Council citizens could see their own military forces retreating in panic from human attacks. They watched their invincible warships being consumed by Reaper swarms. "Your leaders started this war," General No continued. "They murdered our peaceful ambassador and threatened to wipe out our entire species. Now they hide in their fortified palaces, while you suffer the consequences of their decisions." The psychological campaign was working. Several alien worlds had already surrendered to human forces rather than fight. Others were beginning to question why they were fighting for leaders who had started an unnecessary war. But the most important victory came when Commodore Jo Min-soo discovered the truth about the Galaxy Council in their own archives. Her intelligence team had broken into the Council's central database on Nexus Prime during a raid 6 months earlier. What they found there shocked even the hardened human military officers. "They've been doing this for thousands of years," Commodore Jo reported to the Earth leadership. "We're not the first species they've destroyed out of fear. The archives show 17 other civilizations that were eliminated before they could become threats." President Lee Soo-jin, now calling herself Commander-in-Chief, listened to the report with growing anger. "Show me," she said. The holographic display showed images from the Council archives. Entire civilizations that had been wiped out because they developed technology too quickly or showed too much military potential. Billions of beings had died because the Galaxy Council decided they were too dangerous to exist. The Zephyrians developed artificial intelligence and were eliminated. Commodore Jo continued. The Stellaris built their first faster-than-light ships and were destroyed within a year. The Omega Collective created advanced weapons to defend themselves from pirates and were classified as a galactic threat. All of them sent ambassadors first, added Intelligence Chief Park Yu-jin. All of them tried to negotiate. All of them were killed just like Ambassador Kang. Commander-in-Chief Lee stood up slowly. Broadcast this information across the entire galaxy. Every species needs to see what their beloved council really is. The revelation changed everything. When alien civilians learned that their government had been committing genocide for millennia, many turned against the council. Entire worlds declared independence. Several alien species switched sides and joined the human alliance. The Meridian Union, a group of peaceful traders, were the first to formally ally with humanity. Their ambassador, a being that looked like a walking tree, met with human representatives on the neutral world of Haven Station. "We have reviewed the evidence," Ambassador Verdant said. "Our species has lived in fear of the Council for 800 years, never knowing why they seemed suspicious of our success. Now we understand. They would have killed us too if we had grown too powerful." "Join us," said human ambassador Kim Woo-jin, who had taken over diplomatic duties after his predecessor's murder. "Help us end their reign of terror." Within months, 8 different alien species had joined the human alliance. They provided intelligence, resources, and safe harbors for human fleets. The war was no longer humans against the galaxy. It was freedom fighters against an oppressive regime. Admiral Song Hee-soo led the final assault on Nexus Prime, the station where Ambassador Kang Dae-ho had been murdered 2 years earlier. Her fleet included ships from 4 different allied species, all united in their hatred of the Galaxy Council. "This is for our Envoy," she broadcast on all frequencies as her ships surrounded the massive station. "This is for thinking you could judge us. This is for your mistake." The battle for Nexus Prime lasted 6 hours. The station's defenses were the most advanced in the galaxy, but they had been designed to fight traditional enemies. Human tactics and allied cooperation proved too much for the Council forces. When the station finally fell, Admiral Song stood in the same chamber where Ambassador Kang had died. The 12 Council chairs were empty now. Some members had been killed, others had fled to distant systems. "Attention, Galaxy Council," she said into the station's communication system. "You murdered our ambassador in this room. You thought you could destroy humanity before we became a threat. You created the very threat you feared." She gestured to her mixed human-alien crew. "Look around you. Your empire is crumbling. Your member species are abandoning you. Your fleets are burning in space. This is what happens when you start a war with beings who have nothing left to lose." The Admiral walked to the spot where Ambassador Kang had died. "You wanted to judge our species by our capacity for violence. Congratulations. You've seen what we're capable of when we're fighting for survival. The question now is, will you surrender, or do we have to hunt down every last one of you?" Galaxy Council's response came 3 days later. Warcast Thurok, the only surviving Council member still fighting, broadcast a message of defiance. "We will never surrender to primitive humans and their alien puppets," he declared from his fortress world. "The Council has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not bow to upstart mammals who barely learned to leave their own planet." "Admiral." Song smiled when she heard the message. "Wrong answer," she said. The human fleet began moving toward Thurok's world. Behind them came the largest invasion force ever assembled. Humans and aliens working together to end the Council's reign of terror. But even as victory seemed within reach, the war had changed humanity itself. The peaceful explorers who had first reached for the stars were gone. 5 years had passed since the execution of Ambassador Kang Dae-ho. Emperor Lee Tae-ho, formerly Admiral Lee of the Earth Defense Forces, stood on the observation deck of his flagship, Terra's Wrath, and looked down at what remained of the galaxy, Council's capital world. The planet below was a shadow of its former glory. Once it had been home to billions of beings from dozens of different species. Now most of the great cities lay in ruins. The survivors lived in camps under human supervision, learning to accept their new reality. The war was over. Humanity had won. "Your Majesty," said General Park Yu-jin, approaching with the daily reports. She had been promoted to head the new occupied territories command after the previous leadership died in the final battles. The morning briefings are ready. Emperor Li turned away from the window. The title still felt strange to him, but the galaxy needed strong leadership. The old system of the council had failed. Democracy and cooperation had given way to tyranny and genocide. Someone had to take charge, and humans had proven they were the strongest species in the galaxy. "What's the status of the former council world, Yi?" he asked. "Veth Prime has been completely pacified," General Park reported. "The surviving Vethians are working in the reconstruction camps. They're learning human languages and customs as required." "And the Timelians?" "The same. General Kim Min-soo reports that the younger generation is adapting well to human education. They seem grateful to be alive." Emperor Li nodded. The integration program was working. Children of former council species were learning to think like humans, to value human ideals like efficiency and determination. In a generation or two, the old ways would be forgotten. Any resistance movements? "Small groups in the outer systems," General Park admitted. "Nothing we can't handle." Most species accepted the new order quickly once they understood the alternative. The alternative had been demonstrated thoroughly during the war. 4 of the 12 council species no longer existed. The hegemony had fought to the last being, refusing to surrender even when their home worlds were burning. Warcast Thurok's people had chosen death over defeat, launching suicide attacks until every last warrior was dead. Humanity had shown mercy to those who surrendered quickly. Those who continued fighting had been eliminated completely. The galaxy had learned to choose wisely. Dr. Kim Sun-woo, the chief xenoarchaeologist, entered the Emperor's office carrying a datapad. She had spent the past year studying the Council's historical archives, uncovering the full truth about the galaxy's past. "Your Majesty, I have the final report on the Council's genocides," she said. Emperor Li took the datapad and scanned through the information. The numbers were staggering. 17 species completely destroyed, 43 others severely weakened or enslaved, hundreds of worlds depopulated because their inhabitants showed too much independence or military potential. They weren't just keeping peace, Dr. Kim explained. They were actively preventing any species from becoming powerful enough to challenge them. They created a galaxy of weak dependent civilizations that could never threaten their rule. And now we're doing the same thing, the Emperor said quietly. "No, sir," Dr. Kim said firmly. "We're creating order from chaos." The Council ruled through fear and deception. "We rule through strength and honesty. Everyone knows where they stand with humans." That was true. Humanity's empire was built on simple principles. Obey human law, contribute to human prosperity, and you will be protected and fed. Resist, and you will be destroyed. There were no hidden agendas or secret plots. The rules were clear and applied equally to all species. Counselor Han Woo-jin, formerly a general in the human army, entered the office with updates from the occupied territories. He now served as the governor of the former council worlds, overseeing the transformation of galactic society. "The reconstruction is ahead of schedule," he reported. "The alien workers are becoming more efficient as they adapt to human management techniques. Productivity has increased by 30% in the past year." "Any complaints about working conditions?" Emperor Li asked. "Some, but nothing serious. They're learning that humans reward hard work and punish laziness. Most are beginning to appreciate the fairness of our system." The human system was indeed fair in its own way. Every being in the Empire, human or alien, had a role to play and a place in society. Those who worked hard were rewarded with better housing, more food, and positions of responsibility. Those who were lazy or rebellious found their conditions much less comfortable. It was not the democracy that Ambassador Kang Dae-ho had hoped to find among the stars, but it was stable, efficient, and peaceful. No one started wars in the human empire because everyone knew that humans would win any war they fought. Ambassador Kang Min-soo, the son of the murdered diplomat, stood in the same chamber where his father had died 5 years earlier. But now the room looked very different. Where 12 alien thrones had once stood, There was now a single human chair. Where council members had once debated the fate of species, human administrators now managed the daily business of a galactic empire. A new delegation of aliens had requested an audience with the human leadership. They came from unexplored regions of the galaxy, having heard tales of the Terran Empire and its powerful rulers. "Ambassador Kang," said Emperor Li through the communication system, "are you ready to meet with them?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Kang replied. He had learned from his father's fate. This time, humanity would not be the one asking for membership in someone else's organization. This time, they would be the ones deciding who deserved to survive. The alien delegation entered nervously. They were tall, thin beings with silver skin and large eyes. Their leader, who called himself Diplomat Xylar, stepped forward and bowed low. "Great humans," he said in careful, practiced words. "We come from the Andorian Collective. We have heard of your mighty empire and wish to discuss peaceful relations." Ambassador Kang looked at the aliens with the same expression his father might have worn 5 years earlier. But this time, the human was the one with the power to decide life and death. "Tell me about your military capabilities," Kang said bluntly. Diplomat Xylar looked confused. "We are a peaceful people. We have only small defense forces to protect against pirates. What about your technology? How advanced are your weapons and ships?" "We focus on science and art," Xylar replied nervously. "We have little interest in warfare." Ambassador Kang made notes on his datapad. "How many worlds do you control? What is your population? What resources do you produce?" The questions continued for an hour. Unlike his father's reception 5 years earlier, this was not a diplomatic conversation between equals. This was an interrogation by a superior power deciding whether inferior beings deserved to live. Finally, Ambassador Kang made his decision. "The Terran Empire will allow your species to exist," he announced. "You will surrender 30% of your annual production to human administrators. You will accept human observers on all your worlds. Your military forces will be limited to what we approve. In return, you will receive protection from pirates and other threats." Diplomat Xylar looked relieved. "Thank you, great humans. We accept your generous terms." As the alien delegation left, Ambassador Kang walked to the memorial wall that had been installed in the chamber. At the top was his father's name, followed by billions of others who had died in the war, humans and aliens alike. "Was this what you wanted, Father?" he asked quietly. There was no answer. Ambassador Kang Dae-ho had died believing in cooperation and peace between species. His son now lived in a galaxy where humans ruled through strength and fear. But perhaps this was better. The Galaxy Council's system of hidden genocides and secret oppression had been replaced by open human dominance. At least now everyone knew the rules. On Earth, Professor Ryu Yewan was writing the official history of the war. As the military historian who had helped unlock humanity's most terrible weapons, she felt responsible for documenting what those weapons had accomplished. The execution of Ambassador Kang Dae-ho was the single greatest mistake in galactic history, she wrote. The Galaxy Council thought they could eliminate a threat before it fully developed. Instead, they created the very monster they feared. Humanity's transformation from peaceful explorers to galactic conquerors took only 5 years. We learned to use every weapon, every tactic, every level of violence necessary to ensure our survival. We became exactly what our enemies said we were. But we became that way only because they forced us to fight or die. The choice was extinction or empire. We chose empire. She paused in her writing and looked out the window at the memorial garden dedicated to all who had died in the war. Both human and alien names were carved into the black stone walls. Even in victory, humanity had not forgotten the cost. The galaxy wanted to judge our species by our capacity for violence. She continued writing. They got their answer. Now, they live with the consequences of that judgment. We rule now not because we wanted power, but because we proved we were the strongest. We conquered not because we were evil, but because the alternative was extinction. Perhaps future generations will judge us harshly for the empire we built. Perhaps they will say we went too far, became too cruel, destroyed too much.